Okay, we are in Dangerous Edition Sprint 2. This is the review. This sprint covered 3 weeks. It was from the 23rd of January to February 10th today. You can see the JIRA report if you're interested as to what our burn down chart looks like. We completed 134 story points. There are 91 stories remaining. Story points, I guess. I don't know if folks have gone through and closed everything they've done. So before we close the sprint today, if you can go ahead and close out whatever in progress that you've completed, that would be great. I saw a bunch of in progress stories. If not, those will all go back into the backlog when we close down the sprint. So, okay, we're on Refactor XOS. Do you guys want to take it from there?
That's me, right? Yeah.
Stefan? Yes.
Okay, sorry. The re-implementation of the Ansible runner was actually an item in the first sprint, which dragged on a bit because I needed to debug individual synchronizers and services. So I guess initially I anticipated only having to debug the core, but because these services and synchronizers are implemented by individual developers independently, they kind of failed in special ways, and so that dragged on a bit. The XOS IR.
Sapin, can you please speak up? Folks on the phone are having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry, so the XOS IR, around which we had a lot of discussions, the first version of the specification is in Google Docs along with the design document. I've made a pass over all of the synchronizers, eliminating the use of Jinja templates, Jinja variables, and using native Ansible variables instead. This is tested initially, but in the core, but requires more testing with individual synchronizers. So I think that's going to be a ticket in the next sprint. The elk stack stuff, again, more integration testing and debugging was needed. It's now documented and it's in Wiki. And I would say that the XOS IR code generation tool is roughly 50% done. It will require 2 or 3 more days of effort to finish.
Scott?
Sure. So the first of these was an issue with deleting example tenant. This turned out to be a race condition, I think, between the model policy and synchronizers. We did make some non-trivial changes, so that's why this didn't get backported to 2.0 that had to do with changing tenant with container from a proxy to a real database model. So that's done. We updated the core API to use the official keys and certificates that are provided by the build system. We wrote an abstraction layer for an ORM for the client API that sits on top of the gRPC client, and it provides a Django-like layer that automatically resolves foreign key linkages, and it'll be used to facilitate the changes to onboarding where we make the synchronizers use gRPC instead of using Django. We're currently working on deploying Chameleon. That's like 99% done. We had some discussion about using console and registrator. We kind of held it back for that, and then some build system changes happened, so we now have to adapt our Chameleon container to be launched using the new build system. So I don't think there's much work left in that. We should have that done either today or Monday, I would hope. I'm also working on implementing the core client. This is taking a little longer than expected just because we've had to get a lot of stuff in place that the client's going to need, like additional annotations, additional APIs we've been working on for the REST API, getting everything spread out so that service models are available for the UI, stuff like that. I think that's it for this refactoring slide.
Okay, thanks, Happen and Scott. XOS GUI. Matteo?
Yes, I will go quickly since I have a demo later. But basically, we enable the GUI to be extended with component registered at runtime from services, and with the same mechanism we can register a custom shortcut and new views. There are some smaller changes, mainly for development, like the debug interceptor. You can decide to print the log or not, so you don't have to worry too much leaving log message around. And we added a global search and pagination to tabular views. It's all done except the UI extension needs to be adapted to the new build system. I hope it won't take too long. And that's it.
Thanks, Matteo. Refactor, build, and deploy. Andy?
Yeah, so my main task was adding a virtual fabric, the cord in a box. That's in there now as an experimental feature. So you specify a flag if you want to try it out, but by default, you don't have the virtual fabric running. If you do select the virtual fabric, then the build process is going to auto-generate a configuration file for the fabric and load it for you. It leverages the cord generate tool that is present on the head node. So future work, this configuration of the fabric will get subsumed into XOS, but just in order to make progress on this task, we're using cord generate right now. So looking ahead to getting XOS to configure the fabric, there's a design document linked there for modeling the fabric in XOS. I've gotten some feedback from Scott on that. That's still a work in progress. But it's also in the Dangerous Additions folder on Google Docs. There were a couple of bug fixes that came up during this sprint. So we discovered that when a virtual machine is created in OpenStack and connected to multiple networks, and sometimes it gets the wrong default gateway. This came up with the example service VM when it got connected to a network that was required for the monitoring service. So sometimes it got the wrong default gateway and then didn't have internet connectivity. So that should be fixed now. And then there was also this issue that people had reported of a problem running HTTP command on the head node, which was at the time part of the process of configuring the fabric. So that's also fixed. So I ran a test, just to put this out there, I ran a test on bringing up the virtual fabric after the yesterday's changes to the build system were checked in, and there seems to be a little problem with that now, which I am looking into, but hopefully by the end of the day, I'll have a handle on that.
So this will be question on the wrong default gateway fix. So are we fixing the order of the NIC cards while creating the VMs? Is that the
Yes, that was the fix that I came up with, that the default gateway is always associated with ETH0, and then there's some ordering that happens in the synchronizer to make sure that ETH0 is a public network if it exists, yeah.
This is me, and actually I've added to the slide since this. But basically, the steps to declaratively define a chord profile and to not mix the profile and implementation steps was applied. This really changes how the build process works. It eliminates service profile. Profiles are defined now in platform install. And this also will help people who want to build profiles other than RChord. So I already see people, I think it's Andrea, working on building eChord profiles, which is really nice to see. And there's documentation to support this. Additionally, if you use service profile now, you'll get a deprecation warning while you try to run it. So hopefully we'll get people moved to using the new system. And I'm in the middle of updating some of the other profiles to use the new build process, specifically the OpenCloud profile.
So Jack, one quick question here. So the new process will allow us to rebuild XOS once we spin up this profile, right? Spin up this chord pod. What I mean is, today we have this process of cleaning up and rebuilding XOS. Would that be still allowed in this new process?
Yes.
Yes, there's a teardown process that you can do. That there's actually a playbook to run that will do it. Some of the teardown may not be as complete as it was in the previous setup, but we can. Those are bugs to be fixed.
And we used to have rebuilding of individual service, and that is also possible with this new mechanism. Is that right?
So are you saying you want to rebuild and then re-onboard a service and create a new container?
Right, right.
Currently, we don't have that granular of a capability. It's rebuild the entire, tear down all of the XOS containers and rebuild them. If you want to add something like that, we definitely can. I think there's an onboarding container. There's an example using example service that will re-onboard that container, and I think that it will re-onboard with any changes that have been made. But I haven't specifically tested that scenario. If it doesn't work, we can work it out and make it work.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Here?
I don't know who wrote the first question.
I'm not sure either.
Anyway, we finally integrate the pseudo-wire as a service in the Fabric. This service is available both in master and Honest 1.8. This was a requirement for eChord. We were able to integrate the pseudo-wire without any workaround for the bottom of stack problem. We received the last week bug fix from Broadcom. So the fix now is available in the DPA 3.0 EA4. And Liana, can you update the slides? There is also another bullet point. No.
I'm working on it. It's okay.
We received also another bug fix for some repeatability issue that we had with the switch. In particular, we built a kind of stress test, and when we run this test against the pseudo-wire, we had some failure. Now, in the past, this test was failing each time. Now we have better results, but we see that problem. So we need a further investigation for this. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Pierre. Fabric features?
Okay, for the first part, we integrate with we finish also the integration of IPv6 support both in the fabric and the router. In particular, what was missing is how we can manage the control traffic for the router use case. So for now, we have this kind of new handler in ONOS that is used to manage ICMP-v6 traffic, because in this way we can avoid the pop limit decrement in the data plane. We investigate also bridging option. This will be the final solution. So the traffic will be forwarded in the data plane and not more in the control plane, but we need to finish the implementation. We add also a small feature to ONOS to learn in a opportunistic way the IPv6 link local addresses. This is necessary to properly learn the next hop in the router use case, because what can happen is the upstream router can announce as next hop its link local address that is not the same address used for the peering session. And ONOS cannot, in the past, didn't know this address, but now we are able to learn during the peering section establishment also this address.
Okay. I can update the following. So in this sprint, we also add a little bit more support on VLAN stuff. So we create some new VLAN configuration in the interface config, and that one has been merged. We also changed the way that SIM routing assign VLAN from looking into the subnet to looking into the new VLAN configuration file. So right now we support untagged, or you can think about like an access port VLAN scenario that is under review. And I'm also working on the tag support, which is, you can think like a trunk port scenario, and that's a work in progress. For dual homing features, we install extra switches and servers in the atrium rack for dual homing environment. Right now we have 5 leaves and 3 spies. We use all kind of models we have right now. So you can see we have actually different models like PowerPC, x86, or AMD64, or we have like Trident, Tomahawk, Qumran, everything we have. And then we also, I think the rest are from Jonah, right?
Yeah, there's some working on the vRouter HA. So we added the support for multiple control plane redirects. So we have multiple quaggers in there running inside the fabric, and we need to be able to receive traffic from multiple upstream routers to both of those quaggers. So that's in there now. And then the other thing we did is make the vRouter components into separate apps, which allows us to have more flexibility in selecting which components are active at any one time.
Do you have the config example for configuring multiple vRouters somewhere?
In Gerrit, yeah.
Okay. And we also merged the DPA pipeline for OVS. So right now we can run or emulate DPA pipeline with OVS.
Okay.
But the OVS of DPA pipeline requires ONOS 1.9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to work through, as part of planning in the next sprint, right, the changes in the repos also, because ONOS is going to be creating a support branch Monday. So we'll have to work through how all of that is going to work, what's going to be in 1.9. expand QA coverage?
Okay, so for QA, we had this ticket that we raised to investigate core tester, whether we can run the existing test from the core tester on CIAB. So with some changes on the core tester test cases, we were able to run some existing tests from the core tester. So we plan to do this as part of an automated job where we try to do installation on CIAB and then we deploy the core tester and run some test cases from the core tester framework and our own XOS test that we created here, and we would do all these things on CIAB. So right now, whatever coverage we have on CIAB is little, but we are going to still expand going forward. And as part of this investigation, we prepared a new Jenkins pipeline job in order to cover all these above steps as an automated process. So we are still yet to test, but the job has been created. We will test it and release it properly next spring. And we also fixed a few Jenkins job issues which we had created earlier for the service profile and service profile repo and the XOS repo. We had some Jenkins job before, and we faced some issues last spring, so we fixed some issues as part of it. So that's all for QA coverage.
So, just one. Are you able to install code in the box now during the night?
From the pipeline job, we are yet to test it.
No, in any way.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
From the night we did.
Right.
No, not.
Okay.
We are following the procedure from the
Because I see that failing, right?
So I think that
the cord in a box
Right. That's
been
the
failed.
Right.
Yeah, I think part of the issue was the changes to the build system from yesterday, and that changed the name of a directory, and so cord in a box was not able to clean up the previous run. So I think that particular issue is fixed now, and it'll fail for a different reason now.
Because that's what was done on master.
Right.
So we usually take a stable build because we want to make some tests, whichever works, so we have full it. But the automated will be unactive in the get and then install it. Maybe once it's stable, we will run it.
Someone is typing really loud.
Sorry.
We're having a hard time hearing over it.
Okay. So so that's all for QA.
Thanks, Suchitra. Monitoring as a service, Recon?
So the first bullet here, I think, was mine. This was the issue with interfaces not always showing up on the management instances. I think that was another race between service profile and between synchronizers and model policy, and we have that resolved, and that should be working now.
Yeah, the second issue, again, another race condition that we noticed while launching monitoring service. It is due to some RabbitMQ related user configuration. So we fixed that, and we also backported that to COD 2.0. In this sprint, we actually targeted to onboard some of the analytics application, like simple auto scale application on top of the monitoring service. But as part of that, we also realized that there are some Kafka related issues that we identified inside the monitoring service. So that's where we raised another Jira ticket 834 to fix that and upload a new custom image for monitoring service. However, we could not proceed with this onboarding of the analytics application because currently monitoring service is broken due to some recent refactorings, and we are looking into the bringing the service back. That's all from monitoring service side.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, so this was an issue where if you had two VSG tenants with the same S tag, that you would lose connectivity to one of them. And this was just a matter of not supplying the right addresses to VTN, so that bug is fixed.
Thanks. Ali? Volta?
Please speak up.
They're very quiet.
Is this better?
Yes, much
Way better.
All right, wonderful. So, in Volta, we spent most of our time planning for the second phase of the lab trial. So there's a bunch of stories that have gone into Jira and a few more that will be coming in soon. I spent my time cleaning up and refactoring the code around for the changes that we introduced during the lab trial. And cleaning it up a little bit, it was a little slammed in at the time. And I created also a bug bounty, so I kind of went through the code base of Volta and created a bunch of like starter bugs that anyone can go and pick up. I sent an email to the mailing list advertising the bug bounty, so whoever's interested in getting their hands dirty with Volta, they can just go to these bugs and try them out. Another thing that was done is splitting Chameleon out of the Volta code base. It now shows up in the core repo in two places. Incubator Volta Chameleon, which is actually a symlink to components Chameleon. So what happens is repo checks out Chameleon in components / Chameleon, and then creates a symlink from Incubator Volta Chameleon to the other directory. And that's it. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Ali. Ecord? Mark?
Mark has a little bit of a connection problem. I'll do this. So during the sprint, we deployed the full eCode rack, so 3 central offices and 1 global controller in the office. So that's up and running right now with Core 2.0. We plan to update that if possible with the like Mcord is doing, basically fixing some commits a little bit after Core 2.0 to get the new XOS GUI, and also the patch that Zach was talking about before. So in progress, we're building the enterprise gateway. It's there, it's under the repository. Right now it's a copy of the service gateway. We'll have to modify some stuff, but it was also the way for me to get my hands dirty with XOS and deploying services. Mark is building / refactoring some parts of the Ethernet Edge application. That's in progress. He has some patches on Gerrit for review. We're doing that. I created yesterday the new eCode and mock eCode templates for morning XOS and the services to the playbook, thanks to Zach's patch that he discussed before. I did some testing yesterday. Was successful in some points, especially with the mock eCode template. And I will do more testing today, because the patch was merged 2 days ago, so that's something that wasn't done for that. We didn't start the Ethernet Edge XOS service model in Synchronizer because we know there is some refactoring going on, and we prefer to prioritize deploying eCode with the proper new method. Mark created also the S3 demo proposal for ONS, and we also had some very interesting conversation with the Microsemi people from Ireland that came to the office, and we actually got 2 of their UNIs to be included in the rack and in the ONS demo. We already have the devices. They are here in ONLab, and we will plan to integrate them in the future.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. Mcord, Ping Ping?
Hi. We did a lot of this sprint, and because I'm WC demo. So the first right now we have done the fixed IP address to some VM. In general, we don't need the fixed IP address, but in some of the use cases, we still need to fix IP address. So far, we applied 4 types of networks to MCOD: the management local, management host, VSG, and private. And this time, we successfully integrated the fabric, including the hardware, web hardware switch and the fabric XY service. This time, we use another model of the ARM server from KVM, so there's no packet loss for this model. So far, we have the full pod deployment to the MCOD mini and with the MCOD configuration. This is like the full deployment of the code and MCOD. Due to the code update, so the configuration are out of date. So we upgrade the management local and fix the configuration file. We fixed the signaler those days. And the last thing is, I don't know whether you notice this or not in RCode or ECode. When we use the management host network, Onos learned a lot to host. There's no network ID, no network type, and so Onos threw out a lot of exceptions for this. We fixed it for short term inside MCOD. I think for long term, I think we still need to discuss with the core team. And that's all.
Okay, thanks, Ping Ping. Okay, Dangerous Edition Sprint 3 is coming up next week. It'll go for 3 weeks from 2/13 to 3/3. The sprint planning session is on Monday at 2 p.m. I think a few things that we'll want to call out and highlight would be we're heading into Onos, the hardening sprint, which means some of the issues that we've been seeing persisting around, we may want to consider getting those fixed, like the storage exceptions that we've been seeing. And then other things like if we're pulling Fabric components out, we may want to see what the impact is, especially if we're including 1.9 as part of Dangerous Edition release.
Are we? I thought the plan was to use 1.8 in next release.
My understanding was we were moving to 1.9, right? Because I know we backported pseudowire, but all the changes are in 1.9, right?
Yeah, but I thought we were not going to release that. We're going to use the same Fabric version for Dangerous Edition. No?
We may want to talk about it then, because my understanding was, as a whole, for Dangerous Edition, we were moving to 1.9.
Sorry?
But we are.
The pseudowire.
The pseudowire is on 1.8 because of eCord development that was occurring on 2.0. Yeah. So we're going to have to talk this through on Monday. Because if eCord is using the new UI, then I assume eCord is moving to master similar to MCord. So some of the pseudowire stuff I assume would also be on master. So, or Onos 1.8 and 1.9. So let's figure out which version.
Yeah, and we plan to use the new UI, but we plan to do so by using a manifest that Matteo is building for MCord and for eCord, basically fixing some commits, some repository to a specific hash, so not bringing everything to master. We fix it to a specific point.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, not all of it is going to be master, but it's going to be a really specific point, a little bit, just a tiny bit after 2.0, just to get the new UI and a little bit of new things, such as Zach's patch for the deployment of Cord.
So some eCord things will be on 2.0?
No, but we discussed this last Tuesday at the TST, because we didn't want eCord and MCord to put new feature in 2.0, so we decided to make a manifest for them that was slightly after 2.0 and was blocked to that point, except for their specific repo that are on master.
Mm-hmm. And so is there still a dependency on pseudowire and 1.8?
To that, I didn't have an answer.
Okay, so we may want to talk about that because I know Pierre got it on 1.8 because eCord was going to work on 2.0, right? But if we're moving everything out, then are we, since pseudowire got on 1.8, it's on latest, it's not a released version, so are we pointing to a snapshot version of ONOS right now? And from where? And then which version of ONOS? I had assumed we were doing 1.9 and 1.8 was just the temporary measure, so we need to talk through that.
Yes, I'd say we'll do this offline and maybe start a thread with Mark that knows a little bit better than I do this specific thing.
But overall,
when is ONOS planned to be released?
ONOS is going to release 2.28. And then the next release isn't for another 3 months.
Okay, so
we've got some timing issues.
So 2.28. So we should not. I don't see why we would move to 1.9 if ONOS hasn't been released yet. So you only move to a released version. You don't move to anything else.
No, agreed. But we're talking about Dangerous Edition release, right? And so if we're talking about Dangerous Edition release, since we're in the hardening sprint for ONOS, if there are fixes we need to get into ONOS, we should try to do it now, unless we're planning to do it as a 1.9.1. But what I want to make sure we acknowledge is which version of ONOS. And some of the things we've been doing is getting things backported to 1.8 for some applications, right? So let's try to understand where things are at.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I really encourage everyone to not think of ONOS as a project that lives in the same building as we do. Think of it as any other project we rely on. It'll make your life a lot easier, and not try to align yourself with ONOS, but rather just deal with the fact that it's another open source project. But I mean, I say a lot of things.
Agreed, and which is why we need to understand kind of the releases on that side so that if we have dependencies, especially for some of the bug fixes we're seeing, they're being tracked on the Cord side and not on the ONOS side. So they're not being planned in as part of the planning on that side, right?
Sure. Again, you're talking about ONOS as if you are in. We're talking about Cord. Cord is our project. All other projects are other open source projects. Treat them as such.
Which is fine if we submitted defects over to that project. And so we may want to start looking at it from the standpoint of if there are defects that are in ONOS, submitted to that project. This way we're not tracking them in both, right? The problem with tracking them in Cord is it's not being fixed as part of the ONOS release cycle.
Okay. Fair enough.
So those are the things I think we need to get cleaned up.
Right.
Okay. I will close out this sprint later this afternoon, so probably at 3. If I've gone through the stories that were completed and did a review of them. I've added comments for folks if you guys can go through and address the comments, and then I'll close out the sprint at 3 today. And then get the new one created so that folks can start adding stories for the Monday planning session. And then we have a demo that Matei is going to do, so I am going to stop sharing.
Jan, can you give me presenter permission?
Yes, as soon as I can.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as part of the new GUI, we needed to have the ability to extend it with service custom views to display custom behavior and access the data model. We explored a couple of ways. One was to bring up a new container that was only serving few static files, and that was looking a bit overkill, and it was quite complex to get the right path to access those files. So we changed it to mounting a shared volume on the GUI container. And when we want to extend the UI, we bring up a new container that just build the UI extension and place it in the shared volume so that the main application can access to it. And then through WebSocket, an event is sent to the GUI to notify this this new application. I'm going to show you a demo. We have the XOS GUI on the right, and on the left we are at the bottom in the shared folder that at the moment is completely empty. And at the top we were in an example extension. As I said, this is still based to the old process, but we can build an application. What has happened right now is that if we list the container, we see this extension container builder that is minifying and optimizing file. The builds normally take around 35-40 seconds. And once it's done, we'll see the file here. Okay, these are the minified and optimized file for our extension. And what we need to do is just to save a model in the XOS core, and that will trigger a WebSocket event, and our application is loaded. As I said before, we have the ability to extend the dashboard with information coming from the application. We have the ability to add shortcuts and display them in the list, always coming from the application, and we can register custom shortcut for the views as long as change the content of this side panel that can be displayed and hidden. And that's it. Let me know if you have any question about it.
Thanks, Matteo. I think that's all we've got today, unless anyone has any questions or comments. If not, I'll stop the recording, and then I think we're good for today. So the sprints will be closed at 3 today, so folks can close out any stories you're currently working on that are done, and then address the comments. That would be great. Thanks. Bye.